Hello children, welcome to VKSS Physics Clinic, and we are going to discuss some crucial topics today. In the last class we discussed dispersion of light through a prism, and then we did many derivations related to this. We discussed many concepts and I hope you have understood it all. In this video we are going to discuss scattering of light by atmospheric particles, and then we will come on to discuss also the simple microscope and compound microscope. Okay, so we'll be seeing atmospheric particle scattering of light. What is scattering of light actually? You see, when light from distant object is incident on atmospheric particles, then it recoils. It is thrown back in the same direction or it gets deflected, right? So, deflection of light by atmospheric particles is called what? Scattering of light. And now, the intensity of the scattered light, of course, will be different from that of the incident light, and it will depend upon two things. One is size of the particle, that's number one, and number two, the wavelength of light that we are talking about. Clear? In order that light is scattered by a particle, it's important the size of the particle should be less than the wavelength of light used. Clear? If the particle is larger, then there will be no selective scattering. Now, so we'll be defining what is scattering of light. Okay, let's define deflection of scattering. Deflection of light by atmospheric particles is called scattering, right? And the condition is that for selective scattering, the size of the particle, size here, should be much smaller compared to the wavelength of light used. Clear? Now, what will be the intensity of the scattered light? That is explained by, in fact, when I look at white light, then white light has got 7 components in it. So, the question comes in mind as to which color will be most scattered and which will be least scattered. It is explained by a law which is called Rayleigh law. Rayleigh law of scattering. Okay, a ray of light comes here, strikes a particle and gets what? Scattered. Gets deflected from its initial direction. It is called what? Scattering. Now, which light will be scattered how much is explained by a law that is called what? Rayleigh law. But one condition remains, the size should be very small compared to the wavelength of light. Even comparable will also do, but should not be larger. Now, Lord Rayleigh, a British physicist, he suggested that intensity of scattering is inversely proportional to 4th power of the wavelength of light used. Okay? Meaning, intensity of scattering I is inversely proportional to lambda to the power 4. Well, lambda is what, children? Lambda is wavelength. So it means smaller is the wavelength, more is the scattering. More is the wavelength, less is the intensity of the scattered light, or less is the scattering. Now, before we discuss the implications of this law, we will complete the law itself here. So, according to this law, intensity of scattered light is inversely proportional to 4th power of the wavelength used, and the law is mathematically already stated out here. I is inversely proportional to lambda to the power 4. So, let us see what is its consequence on the visible light. Visible light, as you know, is consisting of 7 colors, we pure, starting from violet to red. Children, we know that this is the increasing order of wavelength, meaning wavelength of violet is less than wavelength for indigo, goes on wavelength for orange, and finally wavelength of red. So you can see as you go down this line, go up the series, then violet has got minimum wavelength followed by indigo and blue. These three colors have nearly same amount of wavelength, same value for wavelength. And if you go up the series, then you can see that orange and red have nearly same wavelength, meaning violet has minimum wavelength and red has what? Maximum wavelength. Now if you go by this law, then intensity of scattering is inversely proportional to the fourth power wavelength. So if smaller is the wavelength, more is the scattering. That means intensity of violet light which is scattered will be large compared to, much large compared to intensity of red light. Meaning if white light will strike a molecule in the atmosphere of comparable size, then violet will be undergoing maximum scattering and red will be scattered minimum. Now there are natural consequences of this. So what do you conclude? That if white light is incident on a particle, then violet will be scattered most and red will be scattered what? Least. So there are practical consequences and we get questions on this. For example, color of sky is blue. Color of the sky in the day is what? Blue. Then the second one is morning and evening sky red. Morning and evening sky is red. Then signals are made red. Signals are made of red color. So many applications are there. Why color of the sky is blue? Why morning and evening sky is red? Signals are made up of red color. Similarly, many more questions can be given. Okay, so we'll discuss these cases. Okay. Here you have a question. Why sky is blue? Blue color of sky. In the daytime, we find the sky is blue. Now, what is the reason? Essentially, in the day, this is Earth's horizon. This is Earth horizon. In the day, sun is very close to Earth. Let's say sun is here, and light is coming to that from the sun. When sun is close to the earth, then in this case, the color of the sky will be the color which is filling what? Earth's atmosphere. And you know, among all the 7 visible colors that we have in the white light, the sky out here will consist of the color which is scattered most. And then we find that during the day, since the sun is directly above earth, the color of the sky is going to depend upon the color which is filling the atmosphere, and the color which is filling the atmosphere is the color which is scattered most. So you ask yourself, which color will be scattered most? We know that blue has got what? Minimum wavelength. In fact, violet has got minimum, but blue, violet, indigo, they have wavelength in the same range. Clear? So since blue has minimum wavelength, then blue will be scattered what? Most. And as blue will be scattered most, then you will find that Earth's atmosphere is filled with which light? blue light. Therefore, the color of the sky is blue. So what is the reason? That during the day when sun is directly above earth, the color of the sky depends upon the color which is present in the earth's atmosphere, and the color which is present in the atmosphere is blue, as blue gets scattered most. Okay, so let's write it down. During, here we have defined, children, you can copy the notes. During the day, sun is directly above the earth, and therefore color of the sky depends upon the color which is scattered most. Since blue has nearly least wavelength, I have said nearly least wavelength because it's not least, the least is in case of violet. Therefore, it gets scattered maximum. Hence, Earth's atmosphere is filled with blue light, giving it blue appearance. So you can ask, as I look at the components of other components of white light, what happens to them? If you go beyond the blue end of the sequence, green, yellow, orange and red, then wavelength gradually increases. And these colors, they do not get scattered, they pass through what? Earth's atmosphere. So, we do not see them in the day, we only see blue color. Clear? Of course, you see violet and indigo also, but you mix them together, the whole appearance will be blue. Alright? So, this is the reason why color of the sky in the day is blue. Now, again another question is asked very often. Why color of the sky in the morning and evening is red? To understand this, children, again we will go back to the same diagram. Morning and evening sky is red. See, in the day the color of the atmosphere was actually depending upon the color which is scattered most. But in the morning and evening, the situation is different. In the day, sun is directly above earth, closer to earth. But what happens here? This is Earth's horizon. This is Earth's horizon. Now, in the morning and evening, sun is far away from earth. Sun is somewhere here. If this is sun's position in the morning, then evening the setting sun will also be here. And we will find that the color of the sky is what? Red. This is Earth's atmosphere. So children, remember always that color of the sky will depend upon the color which is filling the sky. So morning and evening, as sun is far away from earth, then the rays having smaller wavelength. When I go, then you find the red has what? Maximum wavelength. So almost all the colors starting from violet up to the what? Orange or yellow, they get scattered before they reach Earth's atmosphere. Before they reach Earth's horizon, here they get what? Scattered. So they get scattered before reaching Earth's what? Earth's horizon, we are not able to see them. Now, red light has got maximum wavelength. Red has got maximum wavelength compared to violet. So we say that the morning and evening, when sun is far away, then all the colors having small wavelengths get scattered before reaching earth. Now the only color which is able to reach Earth's atmosphere is red. And why red? Because according to Rayleigh law, if you go back to Rayleigh law once again, I is inversely proportional to lambda by 4. So you find that red is scattered least. So the morning and evening, all the colors they get scattered and only red color is able to reach what? Earth's surface. Therefore, Earth's atmosphere remains red in the morning and evening. Okay. So let's write down. We have explained and written. In the morning and evening, sun is located at greater distance from earth. All the colors having smaller wavelength are scattered before reaching Earth's atmosphere. Since red has maximum wavelength, it gets scattered minimum and is able to reach what? Earth's atmosphere. So if you see in the morning and evening, Earth's atmosphere is filled with what? red light, because only red light is able to reach. Hence, color the morning and evening sky is red. Clear? Now, if there is another popular question, they will ask you, why signals are made up of red color? Again, the answer is same that you have written. Red has maximum wavelength, therefore it gets scattered minimum. So, we are signaling from this point and trying to send the signal over a long distance. You want to be able to see it from a greater distance. Then what will happen? You have to make sure the signal does not get scattered very easily. So, the obvious choice is red, because red has got maximum wavelength, scattering will also be minimum. So, children, we understood what is atmospheric scattering and on what factors it depends, and we also saw the case for the blue sky and the red sky. Once you understood this, then we will understand what is simple microscope, right? And then we will be going for the application. Okay, let's start. Children, we are going to see now simple microscope, and the simple microscope comes under a topic that we call optical instruments. There are many optical instruments, but you have in your syllabus only microscope and telescope, optical instruments. Now, there is a question, why do we need optical instruments? Because children, eye has got its limitations on magnification, and you have already done what is linear magnification. You have done linear magnification is size of the image by size of the object. Clear? You have done in the lower classes. Now, we need an optical instrument because eye is not able to magnify enough. We need to magnify the object, be it microscope or a telescope. Now, the difference, what is the basic difference in microscope and telescope? A microscope is used to see objects which are very small and they are placed what? Very close to us, right? Now, suppose you want to see, for example, a slide. What do you require? Your eye is not capable of magnifying and seeing the whole slide clearly, so we need what? A microscope, for example, right? Now, a telescope on the other hand is a device which is gathering light from very far away objects, but both have a single purpose, to magnify. Okay, all right. Now, we will be using here a term called magnification, and magnification we have already done, but before that we will be using another term, least distance of distinct vision. We will be denoting by capital D, and D is 25 centimeter. So, for a normal healthy eye, an object will be appearing to be sharpest when the distance is 25 centimeter, and we call it least distance of distinct vision. If you have an impaired eyesight, then of course you require it to be compensated using specs. Least distance of distinct vision is 25 centimeter. It is the distance at which an object will be appearing to be sharpest to the eye, to normal healthy eye, right? We need an optical instrument for magnifying the object, means I want the image to be bigger than the object, right? There are two ways in which you can do. One is called linear magnification. Linear magnification is equal to height of the object, image divided by height of the object, right? Now, we also call it I by O. If it is the lens, it is minus V by U. If it is a mirror, it is V by U. Clear? But now we will be using another term here. We will not be using this. We will be using angular magnification. Angular magnification. Now, both are basically same. Linear magnification is defined in terms of the height. Angular is defined in terms of angles. Now, suppose I am looking at an object with a naked eye. This is the eye. I am not using any optical instrument. and AB is the object, and the object has been placed at what distance? D, and the object is subtending what angle? Alpha. Now, if I magnify and the object becomes, the image becomes, suppose AB dash, or let's see separately. Suppose the image becomes A dash B dash, and don't think that the image will be always virtual. It can be real and inverted also. And now when I see through this optical instrument and at the same distance D, least distance distinct vision, and the image is subtending what angle? Beta. Distance is what? Same. I can basically superimpose here also. I can make it what? This is B dash, and I can take this angle as beta. But remember, when I am saying beta, I am saying the image. I am saying the image, I am using a lens. So if I divide this angle subtended by the image and angle subtended by the object, then this ratio beta by alpha is called angular magnification. So generally when I will be saying magnification, I am talking about angular magnification. And angular magnification is angle subtended by the image. And how will you see the image? You will see the image with the optical instrument divided by angle subtended by the object. And when you see the object, how will you see? You will see with the naked eye. You are not using any specs, any microscope or any telescope. So beta by alpha will be known as magnification or angular magnification, and the distance at which the object in the image will be placed is capital D. Okay? Angular magnification or magnifying power is equal to angle subtended by image at distance D. Very important. Here I have shown that object and image both are at what distance? Same distance. Least distance of distinct vision. Angle subtended by the image at distance capital D divided by angle subtended by the object at small d. Be very clear about this. I am seeing the image with the help of the instrument, optical instrument. It can be a microscope or a telescope, and I am seeing the object with the naked eye. I am not using any optical instrument. So m is equal to beta by alpha. And essentially children, beta and alpha both have small angles, and we know when angles are small, then tan theta is equal to theta. So it will be easy for us to know that m will be equal to, nearly equal to, not exactly. So this formula I will be using all the time. So bear this in mind, this formula, m is equal to tan beta divided by tan alpha. Okay. Now once you understand this, then we will be doing what is a simple microscope. Okay. Let's start. What is simple microscope? Now we are going to do simple microscope. Children, this simple microscope is basically used as a reading glass. It consists of a convex lens like this, and generally speaking, the smaller is the focal length of this convex lens, the more will be the magnifying power. Okay. So let's say the focal length is here, right? Now the interesting thing is, so a simple microscope or a magnifying glass is also called a magnifying glass. Magnifying glass. It consists of a convex lens having smaller focal length. Now the object to be magnified is kept between the optical center and the focus. We keep the object out here. This is the object I want to see. Do not happen, children? will be taking two rays. One is traveling parallel to the principal axis. So after refraction, this ray is going to pass through the focus. Yes. And I am taking another ray which is passing through the optical center. Now this ray is going to go straight. This is the focal point F. Is F on this side. Now if you extend these two rays backwards, then you see the rays appear to meet here. And you are watching it from this side. When you watch it from this side, then you place this object in such a manner. You place this object in such a manner between the optical center O and the focus F that the final image is sharp. Then obviously the final image, which is virtual and upright, also magnified, will come at what distance, children? Least distance of distinct vision. Because as I told you, the image will be sharpest at what distance? Least distance out of distinct vision, and you are watching from here. You are here and you are watching it. Clear? So once again, a simple microscope consists of a magnifying glass. Consists of a convex lens having smaller focal length. How does it work? The objective magnified is kept between focus and the optical center. The final image is formed at least distance of distinct vision. Clear? Now the final image can also come at infinity. That will be seen later on as a special case. But generally, when you talk about a convex lens acting as a magnifying glass or simple microscope, then you have to keep in mind the objective magnified is kept between the optical center and the focus. Okay. So let's write about this. Clear, children? Now once you understood this, then we will be calculating what will be the magnifying power of the simple microscope. Magnifying power, and this is a small derivation that we will be doing. Now you can see that the final image A dash B dash is subtending this angle beta. Now we have another question here. What will be the angle subtended by the object? Now if you go by the definition, then magnifying power means what? Angle subtended by object, image divided by angle subtended by the object. But in both the cases, we have to place the image as well as the object at what distance? Capital T. Yes? So this object AB is here. I want to know if this object was placed at least distance of distinct vision, what will be the angle? So I'll draw a line parallel to the principal axis here and passing the point B. So I can say like this, let's say this point is B1. Then I can say that if this object was placed at least distance of distinct vision, then this object will be subtending what angle? Children, see here. This object will be subtending this angle, and this angle is what? Angle alpha. Clear? You must be very clear. See, AB is equal to A dash B1, right? So this will be angle subtended by the object when I am seeing the naked eye, and this is the angle subtended by the image when I am seeing here with the help of the optical instrument, which is the convex lens, right? So M is how much? Tan beta by tan alpha. Now let's substitute the value, children. How much is tan beta? Tan beta, if I use tan beta is equal to how much? AB divided by OA. Here AB divided by OA. And how much is tan alpha? Tan alpha is here A dash B1 divided by OA dash. Yes, OA dash. Now children, when I look at this, then A dash B1 will be equal to how much? AB by construction. So, but AB is equal to A dash B1. That means here A dash B1 can be replaced by what? AB. So I can write M is equal to AB by OA, AB by OA dash. So these two are cancelling out. Then M becomes how much? M becomes OA dash by OA. So children, what is OA? This is object distance, and both distances are on the left, and distance on the left is taken as what? Negative. So I'll say here OA dash is equal to minus U minus D, and OA is equal to minus U. See here, OA dash is equal to minus D, which is the image distance, and OA is equal to minus U. So if I substitute this value here in this equation, hence let it here, hence magnifying for M is equal to minus D by minus U. So M is equal to how much here? D by U. So children, magnifying power is how much here? M is equal to D by U. Now this convex lens must have a focal length. So let's say the focal length of the convex lens is f. So what you can do is, I can erase this. I can use lens formula now. So using lens formula. And what is lens formula, children? 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. So how much is V? V is how much? Minus D. Here children, V is equal to minus D. I'll replace U with minus U. And F is F. Focal length of a convex lens is positive. So we put it here. Then minus 1 by D, minus 1 by U, 1 by F. Clear? So here minus becomes what? Plus. So minus 1 by D plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. And then children, multiply both sides by D. Multiply both sides with D. So you multiply with D, then D and D will cancel out. Minus 1 plus D by U is equal to D by F. So if I take minus 1 on the right hand side, then you get D by U with 1 plus D by F. And how much is D by U, children? D by U is what? Magnifying power. So this shows that M is equal to 1 plus D by F. So children, under standard conditions, when we are using a simple microscope to see the final image at least distance of distinct vision, then how much is the magnifying power? 1 plus D by F. Okay. So this is the case when the final image comes at least distance of distinct vision. Okay. All right. Now children, after discussing the first case where the final image comes at least distance of distinct vision. We'll be seeing a special case when the final image comes at infinity, and actually this case is a special case when final image is formed at infinity. And children, for the final image to come at infinity, there is certain criteria we have to follow. Here we have this given convex lens, and in order that the final image comes at infinity, we have to place the object as the focus. We have to place object at the focus, F. And you very well know, when the object is at the focus, then the ray traveling from here parallel will be passing through the focus at the other end like this. Suppose this is the focus F. We are taking two rays. One will be taking which is traveling parallel to the focus, and the ray which is traveling parallel to the focus, parallel to the principal axis, after reflecting will be passing to the focus. Right? Now take another ray which is traveling to the optical center. Now this ray, children, will go straight. These two rays are emerging parallel to each other, and as these two rays are parallel to each other, they know parallel rays meet at what? Infinity. They will not meet anywhere. So if you extend them backwards, then you can say they will meet at infinity. Meet at what? Infinity. So we say that whenever the object will be placed at infinity, object will be placed as the focus, then the final image is found at what? Infinity. This image will be virtual, upright and highly magnified. Okay. So you can see that if I am extending these two rays backwards, they are meeting at infinity. In fact, they will never meet, but you are just assuming they will meet at infinity, and the image will be virtual, upright and highly magnified. So children, if the image comes at infinity, what angle it is subtending? Beta. And how much is the distance? This is equal to the focal length. Let me say the object is EB. Clear? Then we'll be writing about this when when the object is placed, to magnified is placed at focus, final image is formed at infinity. It is virtual, upright and highly magnified. Clear? Now what will be its magnifying power, children? Magnifying power m is equal to tan beta by tan alpha. Now when I look at the diagram, suppose the optical center is O, then tan beta we know how much is that? Tan beta will be equal to EB by OA, and we also know that OA is equal to F, and this F we are measuring on the left, so it will be negative, but we will not put the value just now. Now we have to calculate how much is tan alpha. I place the same object EB now at what distance? At least distance of distinct vision, and you are watching from here. So when the object will be placed at least distance of distinct vision, children, then how much will be tan alpha? Tan alpha from the diagram will be AB by D, and this is AB by F. Let's put the value also. And this you are measuring on the left, so I'll put here minus. D is also on the left, so I'll put here minus 10. If I put these values out here, therefore from equation 1, M will be equal to minus AB by F divided by minus AB by D. AB and AB will cancel out. So here magnifying power will be D by F. So remember, in this special case, when the final image comes at infinity, then the magnifying power becomes D by F. Now imagine you make a lens whose focal length is approaching 0, so its magnifying power will appear to be approaching infinity. But we know that practically it is impossible to design a lens whose focal length will be negative, and therefore we cannot make the magnification very large. So this is one limitation of simple microscope, and hence in the next video I will be discussing with you what is compound microscope. Okay, so only this much for today. Thank you very much.